Hello there, beautiful. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr, and welcome to another Should You Pull for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Today's video, for the event alone, has stressed me out like you wouldn't believe, because we're going to be going into Dimensions End Transcendence 9. Now, this particular event is challenging, to say the least, but with my Alphinaud runs on everything, this is the only event I can think of where I'm like, I don't know if you're going to be able to do this, girl. I don't know if we're going to be able to do this, but I do have some strategies in place, and of course we have banners coming out with this that will feature Vincent, Sephiroth, Galuf, and probably Realm. So if you want to find out more about all of those things, then as always, stay tuned and keep on watching. Now, before we get started, don't forget to check out all of my social media links down below. Over on Twitch, we should be finishing Final Fantasy VII on the Final Fantasy count-up very, very shortly, and after that, I'm thinking of cranking things up a notch by going for platinum trophies on all Final Fantasy titles that are available on PlayStation as a new thing that I want to do on Twitch, because I love hunting platinum trophies with my friends, and I thought it would be a really cool thing to get you guys involved in it. So if you want to join in with that from Final Fantasy VIII onwards, luckily I've already done Final Fantasy X, so we don't have to do that one, then just come along and join in with the conversation over on Twitch. And of course, over on Patreon, I do shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video, and today that person is going to be Sephiroth, who is brand new to the ultimate tier of my Patreon, and of course has Sephiroth on their title card, and I love drawing these title cards. Thank you so much to you and to all of the other patrons that allow me to flex my creative muscles in a way that you guys can enjoy. And I've sent out all of the Patreon cards that are out there for everyone who's on the ultimate tier, so you get these as a physical copy as well as the ones shown at the end of all my videos. And if you're interested in joining in with that and loads of other benefits, consider clicking on the link in the description box below for Patreon and supporting the channel yourself. And of course, don't forget to check out all the other content creators and resources out there for Dissidia Opera Omnia, as they all deserve your support as well. So let's start by taking a look at these banners. So these are going to be a little bit different to what we know in the JP version, or at least one of them is, due to the release of Porum having been associated with the Boss Rush banner that we got recently. So she was originally going to come out with Vincent on his banner, but obviously she's not now. And I think that we're going to see Realm on Vincent's banner instead, to accompany the fact that we've already had Vincent's LD in the past, and therefore trying to get people to pull on that particular banner. So if you want to learn more about Realm and Porum for that matter, then perhaps consider going back and checking my Should You Pull video for the Boss Rush banner. But we're going to start with the other banner to begin with, and honestly this is the banner I'm actually more excited about. So we're going to be seeing Galuf come back with his C90, as well as Sephiroth come back with his BT and all of his gear, and his C90 and rework as well, and obviously the BT plus that goes with it. So we'll start by talking about Galuf. Now Galuf is one of my favourite characters in this game. I love the way that he plays. He is a counter and evade tank and does a fabulous job of it. And let me tell you, this C90 awakening and rework that he gets here is no joke. It doesn't sound like much when you look at just the awakening itself. Like, you get Shira Hidori itself be a stronger triple HP dumping attack, and the counter that comes off it hits harder but still only has 1 HP dump on it. Now the LD awakening, or the rework he gets from that, he starts with Battle to the Death, so he doesn't have to use Dawn Katana straight away, so that he gets his final strike counters off of any damage that he takes. He is now going to be getting more HP damage though up to the for the party as well. Dawn Katana itself has a longer base duration of the Battle to the Death buff, which is what enables his second counter, and then you also get 4 HP dumps off of that. Final Strike, the counter that comes off of it, now has 3 HP dumps on it. So bear in mind that Galuf's main role is as a cover tank that evades and then counterattacks. If you have both Shira Hidori and Final Strike ready, you're going to be doing 4 HP dumps on enemy turns, which is a lot, and not taking damage while doing it. So it's pretty fantastic. His EX Awakening is also really good. So you get cover at on entry into the battle, so you don't have to use cover and cover plus anymore if you don't want to. You also get a free free ability use, so you don't consume the ability use. So you're gonna probably use that on Shira Hidori, so that you then get Shira Hidori plus the next time you use it, and it doesn't waste a use of Shira Hidori. And it lasts so long, you're very unlikely to ever run out of the Shira Hidori buffs anymore. Dual Wield Blade Blitz itself now is 4 HP dumps, and you get brave damage and HP damage added up for him, and bravery or party-wide HP damage taken down as well. And then his AA also gives party-wide attack up and brave damage cap ups. These are all really good buffs to Galuf. Like, Galuf has one of these characters that, since getting reworked in his first ever version of his EX, has never really been bad, and this is a phenomenal upgrade to him, and it makes a huge difference. He's one of the characters you'll see used most frequently for DET9, just because the enemies have such a large amount of HP, and the Lufenia orb ticks down based on whether they have a gold debuff or not. More on that later. And obviously Galuf triggers all of that stuff while dealing a lot of damage. Auron also gets his upgrade fairly soon as well, though, so if you're looking at Auron and you don't feel you need to have Galuf, as long as you get some sort of counter evade tank as well, then you can do well here. But suffice to say, Galuf is extremely powerful. Okay, so now let's talk about Sephiroth. So Sephiroth gets a rework here, LD board rework, EXC90, and obviously his BT+. Most of that gives him one thing, and a lot of it, which is damage. Fervent Blow gets upgraded to have 4 HP dumps, 2 of which are full 100% AoE, the other 2 are single target. Octaslash gives you the full Octaslash fantasy of giving you 8 HP dumps. It says here that it's 7, but if you go over here and look on DissidiaCompendium.com, obviously shout outs to them and to Leo, Bob and Mindy for their translations over on Reddit, you'll see it's actually 8, because you start with the increase in bravery, then the HP attack, then 7 brave HP attacks with brave gains in between each one. So suffice to say, Octaslash hurts a lot. So it's just, and you get splash damage on top of it as well, so it's not even rubbish in AoE fights. The LD board, which obviously the LD gives you the gold framed debuff that we like from Sephiroth. The gold framed debuff itself doesn't actually do all that much, but the fact that it exists, has sap, has damage reduction, a lot, or damage taken increases, things like that, is useful. But the fact of the matter is, you're more likely to use it just because it's a gold debuff and is useful for things like DET9. But this now has 5 HP dumps in it as well, so that's all very nice. His EX gets very powerful with 5 100% AoE damage dumps, whilst also breaking all enemies instead of setting their bravery to 0. So this is really strong, and you're going to use this frequently because it's going to give you a free skill use, which will probably go on his AA, and then you can use Octaslash, and then you're doing way more damage, because that's lasting for 6 turns now and giving him max brave damage caps. So honestly, Sephiroth without his BT is strong, but he's a bit boring because he doesn't really do a lot outside of the damage and the speed reduction aura that he has for enemies. His BT, however, I've always really enjoyed because it's certainly one of the most unique BT effects we've had, but the trouble is it only lasted 3 turns and it didn't really do anything else. Well, that's changed, so you still get the effect of reducing all enemy bravery to 1, whether they're broken or otherwise, every turn, and it gets increased by a turn, so it's 4 actions instead of 3. And you also get, obviously, the second use of it through his BT Plus if you wanted to do it, and his BT phase is really strong because he hits like a bus, so you tend to go EX for Black Materia, then you'd go into Burst Phase, use Octaslash, then Black Materia again, then Octaslash again, and you can see where I'm going with this. Then the damage is really high if you want it to take advantage of the double burst effect, which now gives you 100% attack up, 50% max brave damage cap up, and 50% brave gains. Brave gains on him is a very interesting choice, and it really opens him up to a much wider selection of teams that he can be used in. I will probably be greening Sephiroth. I'm just going to put that out there now. I already have him though, and I've enjoyed him before. I do plan to use him in early Shinryu era, as well as I'm really looking forward to using him with one other character that comes out much later, which is Dorgan, because of the way that they interact with breaks, follow-ups, and all the craziness. So I have reasons why I want to green Sephiroth. So if you're just looking for a damage dealer, I would think twice about going in for Sephiroth, especially if you have characters like Emperor or anything like that that are already dealing large amounts of damage, because you probably don't find you need to have that many more. But if you have like reasons behind where you're going to apply Sephiroth, he's a very cool green unit to have. So now we'll move on to the main event banner, as it were, and as I said earlier, I do think that this banner will differ from what it looks like in the JP version because we've already had Porum. I think that she's going to be replaced with Realm here to make up for the fact that we've had Vincent LD before because he was a global first last year, and that way it makes the banner a little bit more enticing. So I reckon it will consist of Vincent's all kit, including his brand new BT, Realm and her brand new LD, and then Gal with EX. If you want to learn more about Realm, like I said, go back and have a look at my Should You Pull video for Realm, which when I thought she might have been the boss rush banner. So Vincent gets a rework as well. So his moves, like his regular moves, just get HP dumps and additional usage, which isn't a bad thing because the biggest problem Vincent always had is that his moves came out really quickly, which meant you burnt through his skill uses like nobody's business. So you had to then rely on NAF, Brave and HP pluses, certainly by today's standards, to take advantage of his LD buffs. Well, now you don't so much because you're going to be getting multiple HP dumps off of all of his like regular moves. You get extra skill uses out of both of them, and you'll be able to use his skills without a problem. His EX also very nice here because it will give him his EX buff, which gives him more bravery damage depending on how many debuffs the enemy has, and also inflict nightmare on all enemies, which has also been upgraded to make it so they take more bravery and HP damage. The fact that he starts with those, or the debuff in particular, means his call ability is slightly more valuable because you'll get nightmare for calling him. And it becomes a 5-hit AoE Brave HP attack, single HP attack sadly, with splash damage, 4 times, and you'll get a free skill use on the following turn. So again, helping him with his longevity, which is something he sorely needed. His AA gives you party-wide attack and max brave damage cap up, which is quite pleasant. And his LD has also been reworked to deal 4 HP damage attacks, give you the Imperials for fire and thunder resist down on like the first attack, which means you don't have to necessarily rely on his normal skills. You can start with this and you just go off with it. And the power of Chaos itself has made it so that his debuffs take longer, and the actual attack you get out of it, Chaos Saber Shot, is now a triple HP dumping attack. So you have to be attacking a unit that has at least 2 debuffs already on them. So obviously in debuff immune fights he's not going to be very good, but there are always situations where characters aren't very good. But realistically, you're getting minimum of 6 HP dumps per attack, which is pretty good considering how heavy his attack and initial bravery stats downs are. And would I use him with his LD only at this point? Maybe? Like, I could find places to put him if I really wanted to, because he's definitely doing a lot more damage now, but there are better debuffers like Raijin, there are better attackers like Sephiroth. He's kind of in this weird middle ground, but he certainly isn't bad by any means. His BT, however, is brand new. And the one thing I will say for Vincent and Sephiroth that I don't like is that neither of them give HP cap up, which is really sad, because if Sephiroth gave it, I would be over the moon, but sadly we have to pair him with a support that does, to really make the most out of him. But Vincent's BT weapon gives you debuffs instead of buffs. The only buff you actually get from his BT effect is Brave Damage cap, which is, yeah, it's okay. But you get 50% max Brave attack, defense, and speed down. You get 30% Brave damage and HP damage taken up for the enemies. And all of that is gravy, honestly. Like, it's nice. Like, having the attack down on top of the attack down he already has means the enemy's not going to be dealing an awful lot of damage. But the big part of it is that the enemy is unable to grant buffs. Suffice to say, if you have Vincent BT plus 3, you're probably going to take Vincent to DET9. It's going to do a lot of things for you. But if you don't, there are other options. And the disabling buffs is really good because it's on a special effect. It's not on a debuff like, say, Aerith or something like that. And it's attached to a character that is dealing good damage while he's at it. I don't think that Vincent is a must-have character by any means, but I also think that people who want to use him will use him for a while. He's definitely not an all-star in Shinryu era. Definitely not. But like many units in Shinryu era, if you really want to use him, the fact that he does fire and lightning damage pairs him very well with edge, pairs him very well with a lot of lightning-based FRs. You can find uses for him if you like him. Okay, so now let's talk DET9. Now, DET9, was scary in a good way. I love scary, hard, challenging events. We know this. For a while anyway. I've done a lot of research into this one and watched a lot of videos for this. Until I started doing the Alphinaud thing, and now it's even more terrifying because I'm really not sure Alphinaud is going to be able to do this, but I'm going to make a damn good effort to try because it'll really be a pat on the back proud moment if I can pull Alphinaud through this. So let's talk about the Lufenias either side first. So you're going to need green and white crystals to take this out. And again, big thank yous to DissidiaCompendium.com for this information. The Lunatic Wild Shearers, you just need to have an active player buff or a special effect at 5, and you can inflict a gold frame debuff. Gold frame debuffs are going to be a big deal for this thing in general. Like, this particular thing is asking you to bring along Sephiroth. Obviously, that's what it's wanting. And Sephiroth is obviously very good for the middle gate as well. But they have 20 million HP. You'll probably find that the left and right gates you can probably wipe out with a burst phase and probably be okay with it if you're really struggling with it, because they're not particularly difficult events at all. They have like their typical moves. It's the days of the Kieran Lost chapter are well and truly over. You just have to be careful to deal damage quickly and efficiently, and if you want to let the enemies take turns, then you can like just make sure that there's a gold debuff on them, whether it's through a call, Laguna's BT effect, Kadaj, also an all-star for this, or Sephiroth. And then the Lunatic Sahagins on the other side ask you to inflict 2 or more debuffs in one turn, or inflict them with 4 or more debuffs. So this would be where Vincent came in if you were pulling for Vincent. So again, debuffs are the name of the game here. Again, 20 million HP, you'll find you can get through these relatively quickly and efficiently. So the middle gate. This is a different kettle of fish. So the enemies here have 60 million HP each, and there are 2 of them. So they have a lot of health, and the big challenge from this particular fight is actually maintaining the orb. So the enemy's orb increases come from inflicting 4 or more debuffs in total in one action. So that can be 2 to each of them. Or, if the enemy is afflicted with a gold frame debuff at the end of its turn, it will tick up. You will need to keep that orb up a lot. And I'm talking, it's got a limit of 30. You want it as close to that as you can get it. Because at 89%, 59%, 49%, 29%, 19%, and 9%, so 6 times, they're going to cleanse 5 of their debuffs and tick their orb down by 3 for every buff they did. So that is obviously asking for Vincent's BT. So if you have Vincent's BT maxed out, you won't have to worry about this so much. You probably still have to worry about it a bit because you've got a lot of HP to get down, and there are 6 times that they do this. Or you can just hope to maintain the orb as best you can. Galuf is fantastic here because it allows you to enable the enemies to take turns whilst they have a gold frame debuff, whether it's through Sephiroth or Kadaj, and still deal a lot of damage in the interim while they're taking their turns. And then Kadaj is absolutely fantastic for this because he has what is going to be very important to this particular fight, E-sphere slots. And obviously access to gold debuffs and decent damage himself. So what's going to happen here is that if you put an E-sphere on Kadaj, he will then deal multiple debuffs with his move. So he's then dealing 4 or more debuffs to the enemies and applying a gold debuff at the same time. So he's actually fulfilling the orb pretty much all together. The other thing that you have to bear in mind as well is that these guys at various HP thresholds also like to put up shields of 1 million bravery, of 1 million HP damage. So they actually have more HP than they say they do here. But like I said, you want debuffs. You want debuffs if you are letting them take turns in order to increase the orb. You're going to want ways of protecting yourself. This is why Galuf is so good for this. Snow, I've seen quite a lot of clears for Snow using Snow and Kadaj, but the most common characters that you're going to see for this are going to be Galuf, Kadaj, Porum, Sephiroth, and if Realm is on this banner, I do think that she'd be pretty good for it as well, because she has an E-sphere and can use Sketch to apply those debuffs to all enemies, and also get free turns every time they act. So if you pair up Realm and Galuf, for example, you're going to get a lot of damage. In terms of Alphinaud, he can't apply his LD debuff enough to get through all of the phases, which is really sad. But he does mean that I can't get broken, and he can actually fulfill the orb because his HP plus inflicts 2 debuffs to each enemy. So he could at least do that. Like, I mean, is he going to be the best character for this? No, not by a long shot, but I'm going to try the best I can to bring him through. Probably using Kadaj and Galuf, or Sephiroth, or Snow. I don't really know. You guys are going to have to help me with this one. So now, of course, we have Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and tell everyone whether you would pull on these banners or not and why. So a huge thank you to my patrons, as always, for casting their votes in their comments. And if you would like to join in the conversation over on Discord, then by all means come and join us over on there. And if you're on Patreon, you obviously get your chance to have your voice be heard on the channel itself and join in the conversation with the whole world. So thank you very much for those of you who have cast your votes and comments. So let's go into some numbers. Looking at Vincent's banner, and this I put the poll out on the idea that Realm was going to be on here, but obviously this is subject to change. Only 5% of people said they were going to use gems here. 38% of people said they were going to use 100 or more tickets. 33% of people said they were going to use less than 100 tickets. And 24% said no thank you. And I'm in the less than 100, maybe more than 100, depending on whether Realm is on there or not, because then, if I get a BT, I get a BT. Would I green it? Probably not, because I don't think I would use it past EET9, and I'm already very excited for Sephiroth, and we only have so many resources. So I kind of agree with where this is. I kind of sit somewhere in this bracket as well. I'm sure there are fans of Vincent out there that will get stuff out of his BT+, but I'm just not one of them, and I'm sure my patrons don't seem to be either. With Sephiroth's banner, however, I've changed the parameters of the votes a little bit to hopefully give those of you who aren't sure a bit more of an idea of the value of the banner. But 5% of people have said that they're going to be pulling with gems on this banner. 11% of people said that they'd be using 100 or more tickets. 16% of people said less than 100 tickets. 63% of people said, I have everything here, but I would if I didn't. And 5% of people said not interested. Get Galuf. He's really good. Maybe I'm biased, and do you absolutely have to have him to win? No. He is an extremely good cover tank, and he has longevity in front of him for quite some time, even alongside Auron, who is also very good. So don't think that Auron writes him off entirely. There will be times later on where he comes into his own as well. So let's go into some comments. Milotsu says, Vincent's banner will definitely get some tickets from me with the amount of them stashed away in gift box and Bahamut boards. A new BT is always alluring. Realm never seemed very interesting to me though, but sometimes you just have to try somebody out. If she's willing to give me her LD without too much fuss, I'll do just that. If not, no harm done. Sephiroth's banner will be a skip because it brings nothing new to the table for me. I will, however, green Sephiroth. He helped me with a lot of fights when his BT first released and his gold debuff, and let's be honest, his BT effect is just fun to abuse from time to time. He's really good. Like, Sephiroth is really powerful. And I actually agree with you completely on the Vincent banner. Like, if Realm is there, it's like, yeah, I'll get a few tickets. I'd like it, because I've never really played with Realm or, like, used her for anything. But if I don't get her, then no harm done. If I don't get Vincent BT, well, I'll probably be pulling for Edge. Maybe I'll get it there. And if I don't, oh well. Gale says, this banner is likely a skip for me. I already have Sephiroth and Galuf, and they're the only thing that would appeal to me to begin with. Vincent's BT is, in a word, underwhelming. It might be the only way to block enemies from buffing themselves via a special effect, not a debuff, but that alone is not enough to sell me on him. I still have his LD from its first release, so I would only go in here if Realm ends up on the banner and I was in the mood to have some good fun for a change. Overall, pretty unlikely I'll pull. Yep, again, pretty much the same sentiments I have here. Sephiroth and Galuf, yay. Vincent and Realm, if Realm's even there. Like, that's the only word I can really think for Vincent. Like, I really liked him when his LD came out for Global First. I can still understand why other people didn't. And he's a lot better than he was then, at least. And then finally, Sir Alex says, I'm ticketing Realm LD and then tokening Vincent's BT. We'll then proceed to green both him and Sephiroth, which are favourites. But I feel the main actual reason to pull for Vincent is because T9 is going to be a long and annoying fight, whereas BT, effect and kit will make a world of difference. Honestly, if I wasn't worried about T9, had other team plans, or didn't care about Vincent, I wouldn't invest in him at all, especially this close to FR era. He's not bad, in fact I quite like his kit, but I don't think you'll look at yourself thinking I should have pulled him past tier 9. That said, do yourself a favour and make sure you get Galuf. If you get Sephiroth along the way, that's a massive win too. I definitely think that Galuf is the big win here, but luckily, a lot of people already have him, so it's a time where you don't have to invest heavily if you don't want to, and if you do want to get hold of Galuf and you do want to invest in him, he's certainly not going to let you down. If I had more ingots, I would green Vincent, because it would be fun to try someone that's like middling. But I don't. I did that already. I've done green units that I thought, oh, I'll use more of them, and then green units that I've ended up using more frequently. So I just don't think I would with Vincent, unless I really struggle with Alphinaud. So now for the big question, of course. Should you be pulling for Galuf, Vincent, Sephiroth, maybe Realm if she's there? I'm not going to talk about Realm here because I have already spoken about her once before. But Galuf, if you don't already have him, you would do very well to get him. He is an exceptionally damaging cover, evade, counter tank with a lot to offer in terms of protection and damage. With his rework giving him 30% party-wide HP damage taken down, he's now kind of dealt with the problem that he had previously where he wasn't so good at dealing with AoE damage attacks, but he's a lot better at it now, and the counter damage he can churn out is very, very good, especially if you stack it up with another off-turn damage dealer, maybe one that has HP cap-ups on their BT effect and maybe puts Imperil on the enemies so that Galuf can capitalize on that. I mean, I'm definitely not looking at Garnet here, but those of you who have him are going to really love the glow-up he gets here and use him for a while. Although Auron isn't far off. Auron is like 3 weeks away, maybe, unless something changes in the scheduling, because Cryol's FR event is the second event in Kane's batch, which is obviously the first event of FR, first batch of FR era. And Auron gets his C90 there, and he has triple HP dumps on his counters. He also puts debuffs on enemies while he's countering, and he has defense ignoring properties, so you might find you like him more. But quite honestly, I'd like to have access to both of them because they do function slightly differently to one another. Galuf in the right situations actually does more damage. Auron can do a lot more outside of outside of the counter turns though. So I would quite like to have access to both of them, especially as someone who really loves Dorgan and wants to pair up Galuf and Dorgan for fanboyism's sake. Sephiroth, massive damage dealer, huge. And again, I'm a big FF5 fan. Dorgan's in the future, pairs up really well with Sephiroth. That's my reason to green Sephiroth off the bat. But I do think I'm probably going to use him pretty frequently in early FR era as well, because his BT effect is very unique. The fact that he has Brave gains up in his BT effect is crazy. The only thing that makes me sad is that he doesn't have HP cap up and only has Brave damage cap up, which is like, fine, okay, sure. But I do still think he's very good. Would I pull for his BT now? Not if I had other damage dealers like Emperor who are also capable of dealing massive amounts of damage in a short space of time. Yes, Emperor's magical and Sephiroth's physical, but the likelihood is you're probably going to pull for Kane for physical damage and get more damage out of him anyway. Vincent is fine. There's nothing wrong with Vincent. He's unremarkable in a lot of ways. I say that 6 HP damage dumps per attack is not anything to sniff at. It's pretty good. His BT effect is just a bit meh, if you ask me. Apart from the situations like DET9, where you need to be preventing enemy buffs, that's a thing, but it's the only way you can realistically do it as well, because characters like Aerith won't work on it because they cleanse their debuffs before they put their buffs up. So Vincent's the only way around that completely. But am I willing to pull for a BT and green it for the sake of one event? No, I'm really not. But if you like him, he has got a lot of damage. His attack down is pretty noteworthy, particularly if you pair him up with a nice powerful tank like Galuf or Snow or Auron when he comes around. There's a lot you can benefit from that. Edge will also benefit from Fire and Thunder in Peril. There's reasons to have Sephiroth, but I just don't think there's enough of them to warrant going out of my way for his BT. So that's going to be all for today's video. I hope you'll have a wonderful weekend and prep for DET9, because I know I will be. On Monday, obviously, I will be doing my stream, and I will be taking Alphinaud through it, and I'm going to do my damnedest. So if you want to come and join me struggle with that, then come along and find me on Monday. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and let us know in the comments below whether you're pulling for Vincent, or Sephiroth, or Galuf, or Realm, or whoever else there might be. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for joining me once again, and I will see you next time, beautiful. Take care. Bye now.